Hello everyone. Welcome to our animated philosophy series where we explore timeless concepts in a modern context. Today we're going to delve into one of the most significant shifts in modern philosophy, Bertrand Russell's critique of idealism, with a special focus on his exploration of the relationship between appearance and reality. Let's begin by understanding what idealism is. The basic idea behind idealism, championed by philosophers like Berkeley, is that reality is shaped, or even entirely created, by our perceptions. Berkeley famously claimed, "To be is to be perceived," suggesting that the external world only exists in our minds. If you think about it, it's a pretty radical idea. According to idealists, everything we experience as real is dependent on our perception of it. Now, Bertrand Russell, a sharp critic of this perspective, came along and said, just because we perceive things differently doesn't mean there's no objective reality behind those perceptions. This is where Russell makes a crucial distinction between appearance and reality. So, what does Russell mean by this distinction? Let's use his famous example, a table. Imagine you're looking at a wooden table in front of you. Depending on where you stand, the table may appear slightly different. If you walk around it, the shape may seem to change, the color might shift depending on the light, and even the texture may feel different depending on how you touch it. These differences in perception are what Russell refers to as appearances. Now, idealists like Berkeley might argue that these changes suggest that reality itself is entirely dependent on our senses, but Russell strongly disagrees. According to him, while appearances may change, the table itself, as a real object, remains constant and independent of our varying perceptions. There's something about the table that exists regardless of how we see or feel it. This is what Russell refers to as reality. But how does Russell explain this? He introduces the concept of sense data. Sense data refers to the immediate information we receive from our senses, the color, shape, texture, and so on. For example, when you see the table, you're perceiving a particular color, maybe brown or tan. This is sense data. But, and here's the key point, sense data doesn't represent the reality of the table. It's merely how the table appears to you at that moment. Sense data changes depending on your perspective, the lighting, or even your state of mind. But the reality of the table, that it is solid wood, with a specific shape and size, exists independently of how it appears to us. This idea that there is a gap between what we perceive and what truly exists is central to Russell's critique of idealism. He's saying that while our perceptions may not perfectly match reality, they still point us toward the existence of an objective, external world. The table doesn't vanish or become something else just because we perceive it differently from different angles. To make this clearer, let's think about optical illusions for a moment. Consider the classic example of a straight stick half submerged in water. If you look at it, the stick seems bent where it enters the water. That's what your sense data is telling you. However, we know the stick isn't really bent. It's just an illusion caused by how light refracts through the water. Russell would use this example to show that our sense data, the appearance of the bent stick, can be misleading, but it doesn't alter the reality of the straight stick itself. Another helpful analogy for today's world is virtual reality. Imagine wearing a virtual reality headset. In the virtual world, you might see a table that looks just like the one in your room, perhaps even more vivid. You can walk around it, observe its features, and interact with it. But as real as it appears, you know that the table in virtual reality doesn't exist in the same way as the physical table you can touch. This distinction between what appears to be real and what actually is real is at the heart of Russell's critique. Virtual reality might fool your senses, but it doesn't change the fact that the table outside of the headset is what truly exists. Now, why does all of this matter? Russell's critique of idealism was part of a broader shift in philosophy, away from metaphysical speculation and toward logical analysis. He wanted philosophers to stop worrying so much about abstract questions of whether the external world exists, and to focus instead on how we talk about and understand the world through logical analysis and language. This move laid the groundwork for analytic philosophy, a dominant force in 20th century philosophical thought. Russell was instrumental in pushing the discussion beyond subjective speculation, directing it toward a more scientific and rigorous approach to understanding knowledge. In essence, Russell's critique helped redirect philosophical debates. He showed that while our perceptions of the world might vary, this doesn't imply that the world itself is illusory or merely a projection of our minds. By establishing that there is a fundamental difference between appearance and reality, and that we can trust in the existence of an external world, Russell set the stage for a new era of philosophy focused on clarity, logic, and the careful analysis of language. To conclude, Bertrand Russell's distinction between appearance and reality refutes the subjective idealism of philosophers like Berkeley. Through his concept of sense data, Russell acknowledges that while our perceptions may vary, they point to the existence of an objective reality that remains independent of how we see or experience it. His work not only helped to reshape the landscape of modern philosophy, but also laid the groundwork for a more precise and logical way of thinking about the world. Thank you for learning with us. I hope you've gained a deeper understanding of Russell's critique of idealism and the importance of distinguishing between what appears to be real and what truly is. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more insights into similar echoes.